Yo, what is up guys? It's your boy Badge Plug, and today we're going to be going over the top 10 best builds in NBA 2K20. And since you guys showed so much love in my last best builds video, I'm going to be doing a $50 giveaway in this video for Xbox and PS4. What I want you guys to do is watch through this whole video, and then at the end, comment down below if you agree with my top 10 best builds or if you don't. And if you don't agree with my top 10 best builds, comment down below what you think are the top 10 best builds in 2K20. Then once this video gets 5,000 likes, I'll pick 2 winners from the comment section down below. When you make your comment, make sure to let me know where I can reach you on Twitter or Instagram. So drop a like on the video, and once you get to the end, let me know if you agree or if you don't. So before I get into this video, I do want to let you guys know that some builds can be basically the exact opposite of what they say. For example, a lot of people think that offensive threats are just 3-point shooters like play sharps, but you can actually make an offensive threat that gets contact dunks and stuff. Anyway, for my number 10 best build in 2K20, I have the pure glass cleaner. Now the build is just called glass cleaner, but the reason I say it's a pure glass is because a lot of people are making glass cleaning lockdowns which can shoot, and that's not what this build is. If you make a 7'3" pure glass, it puts so many people at disadvantages. Yes, your build can't shoot, but you're 7'3" and you're going to be jumping over all these 6'11" and 7' builds. Plus you're going to have 99 strength, and your brick walls are going to be absolutely destroying guards. So a pure glass is not a super competitive build. Once you get into the really competitive playing of 2K, it's going to be a build that gets locked down very easily, but especially for the 2 score, it can put you at a big advantage in a lot of situations. At number 9, I've got the rebounding wing. This build is more of a lockdown build, but can also shoot because it gets a lot of shooting badges. So once you get those badges on your player, if your teammates have dimer and stuff, you're going to be shooting lights out if you can time your shot correctly. You guys know I play with Stumpy, who's a rebounding wing, and I play with my boy Lockdown TNB, who's very good at his position, and that build is extremely good. There's not much more to say about that build. It can lock down people and it can also shoot, but it does need a little bit more skill than most shooters because it doesn't have a super high 3-point rating. At number 8, I've got the 3-level scorer. The 3-level scorer you can make a bunch of different ways, but the one that I'm necessarily talking about is the one that has near 30 shooting badges. This player is more of a sharp first and then a finisher second type of build. You can get like 30 shooting badges and like up to 15 finishing badges. Although it doesn't compare to other guard builds in certain aspects, definitely one of the best builds in the game, and it's also one that you can get on and it's going to be a lot less skill to use than another build. Like, you're not going to need a super amount of stick skills because you're just going to be shooting. At number 7, I've got the 2-way slashing playmaker. If you guys know who Lamonsta is, he has got this build, and I think this is a very good build. You guys know that my build is a slashing playmaker, so this is pretty close to that build, except for it has more defense and less shooting. So the reason why I don't have it as high as the slashing playmaker is because it is difficult to shoot. So if you're not good at shooting, you will struggle on this build, but at the same time, it has very good defense and gets more defensive badges. At number 6, I've got slasher, or something very similar to a pure slashing build. If you guys haven't seen this year, there is so many slashing builds that can help you out tremendously, and slashing in this game is very overpowered. With the addition of this new hop step that we've got in the game, slashing builds have rose to the top of 2K again. Slashing builds are an easy bucket in the rec, on the 2 score, on the 3 score, basically anywhere you play, it can be an easy bucket. This is a build that's not going to require a lot of skill to get on and use, but it will have lots of potential if you learn how to do certain moves in certain times, because you have to time certain moves, like doing when you should do a hop, when you should do a spin, when you should do a spin and then pump fake. There's so many different ways that you can use a slasher to be extremely overpowered. Plus, on top of all of that, slashers get more XP for catching lobs and stuff, so that's going to help you rep up easier. At number 5, I've got the lockdown sharp shooters. If you haven't seen a lock sharp in the game yet, they're extremely good. It's more even in defense and shooting, so it's not really better in one category. They're both even, basically. There's not much to say about that build. You can get around 20 shooting badges and 20 defensive badges depending on how you make it, and it can be extremely overpowered, and if used correctly, can be one of the best builds in the game on almost any court. At number 4, I've got the slashing sharpshooter. If you guys haven't seen the slashing sharpshooter, this build can get Hall of Fame slashing badges, and Hall of Fame shooting badges. So right away, that is automatically one of the best builds in 2K20 because it can do a huge variety of different playstyles. Even when running with different builds, like various builds, you'll still have a playstyle that works almost every single time. So that's why I chose the sharpshooting slasher at number 4, because remember guys, this is a top 10 best builds in NBA 2K20, but it's also the top 10 most overpowered broken builds in the game. So these are the builds that you can create and hop on, and you're not going to need an extreme amount of skill in order to be able to play at a good level with these builds. Now, any build that gets Hall of Fame shooting badges and slashing badges at the same time is going to put you at a big advantage versus other builds. All of these builds that I've listed so far do have some disadvantages, but the lower that we get on the list, the better they are and the less disadvantages they have. Now, for the third best build in NBA 2K20, I've got the glass cleaning lockdown build. Now, this build is not exactly what you expect it to be. A glass cleaning lockdown you think would be someone who can set screens and plays really good defense, but that's not what the build is. The build is more of a glass cleaner, and it can also shoot extremely well. It can get up to like a 73 point rating. So once you get to like 99, you'll have like a 72, 73, depending on what you put with your wingspan and stuff. You'll be able to shoot threes consistently, especially if your teammates running floor general and dimer at the same time, or either one of them works, but you know, obviously both of them do help. So this build I want to, you know, talk about for a minute, because all of my friends that I play with have a glass cleaning lockdown. 3 of my friends made the exact same build, 6'11" glass cleaning lockdown, and this build can shoot extremely well. I don't know what it is about these builds that can shoot so well, but for some reason they shoot better than stretch bigs. Now, if you guys haven't seen that stretch bigs are broken in 2K20, they're pretty broken, right? You can leave a stretch big wide open and they'll miss, but you know, it just depends on what badges they're running and stuff also at the same time. But these glass cleaning lockdown builds are extremely good at shooting. They get hot spots, they get very high defensive badges. So they get like 20 defensive badges and like 15 shooting badges. So there's almost no room for error in this build, because you only need about 12 to 15 shooting badges to have what you need to shoot really good. After that, you're just putting on extra badges that are going to help a tiny bit. If you guys want to make a center which is good at shooting, I do highly recommend that you try out the glass cleaning lockdown build, because once you get your hot spots and your shooting badges and you get to 99 overall, you're going to be a very good shooter at the game, and plus you're going to be basically a pure rim protector at the same time, because they get like 20 shooting badges. So at number 2, I've got the offensive threat, or what you would call last year the play sharp type of build. Now, I've also got the offensive threat on here that gets contact dunks, because there's 2 different ways that you can make this offensive threat build. You can make the offensive threat where it can get like 25 shooting badges, 20 playmaking, blah blah blah, or you can make the offensive threat where it gets like 15 finishing, 20 shooting, and then doesn't get as much defense or something. Now, these builds are very similar, it just goes on what your defense is. So if you make it with more defense, I believe it calls it a playmaking shot creator, but if you make it with more offense, it'll call it an offensive threat. So these are the same builds practically, but it just depends on, do you want to play more defense, or do you want to be more of an offensive dominator? Like, do you want to be the guy on your team that is going to want to score over and over? Like, your team is going to rely on you to score because of the high amount of badges and attributes that you have. Now, the build that I do believe that is better than the offensive threat build, now the build that I believe is the best out of those 2 builds is the one where you put the contact dunks and stuff on. So if you make the build correctly, you can get an 86, 87 driving dunk, and you'll also get like an 80 3-pointer. Now, you can also get like an 84 or 85 3-pointer. Now, I'm talking about once you reach 99 overall, 99.9. Once you hit 95 overall, every single overall gives you +1 to your attributes. And once you get to 99.9, that also gives you another 0.1. Now, using that to your advantage, you can make the build where it has like an 82, 81 driving dunk and an 83 pointer, something like that. And once you get to 99 or 99.9, you'll unlock contact dunks on that build and have a high 3-point rating. Now, for me, when I go for the top 10 best builds, I like to go for builds that can do multiple things, not just overpowered in one area, because in one area you can be easily shut down. If your build can only shoot, it's going to be easy to guard someone who can only shoot. And if you make that offensive threat where it doesn't have the contact dunks and stuff, and you go for more badges and higher attributes on the 3-point rating, then once you get tapped, I mean barely touching the paint, you're going to be missing layups. So it's easier, in my opinion, to guard the offensive threat than it is the build that gets contact dunks. But you can still make an offensive threat that has contact dunks without calling it the playmaking shot creator. It's really weird how 2K did the builds this year and what the archetype names are. I know it's really confusing to you guys at the same time, because it's still confusing to me how one build you think can do something and it's actually the exact opposite of the build depending on how they put their attributes up. So at number 1, ladies and gentlemen, I've got my slashing playmaker build, playmaking slasher, whatever you want to call it. It's basically a pure playmaker. If you go to make it on the pie chart, it's the pure playmaking one where it has the most playmaking. This build at 99 overall, if made correctly, which I still need to make my build video on this because it's not the same build that I made at the beginning of the year, can get elite contact dunks, which you unlock at 85, and can get the small contact dunks and all that. Plus it still has a high 3-point rating, and if you make it correctly, gets a large number of defensive badges. So if you guys have made it this far into the video, I would like you to comment down below, do you agree with my top 10 best builds in the game? If you don't, comment down below what you think is the top 10 best builds. Drop a like on this video to enter in the giveaway. And it's your boy Badge Plug. You have been plugged in, and I'm out. Peace.